We will finish our education plan page in our portfolio with a featured section that showcases student loans. And this section will act just like that featured section on the home page. So it'll work, each one of these will be like a button that we will be able to click on, and that will take us to the website that will tell us a little bit more about Stafford unsubsidized loans, or Parent Plus loans, or Stafford subsidized loans. Underneath each one of these images that we've included, there's a paragraph, and that paragraph really is just a quick overview of what each one of these entails. And then a couple other information pieces as well, maximum borrowed amount, and then interest rate that goes along with that. So let's jump in and build this section out. So I'm going to tab over to Dreamweaver here, and I'm currently on my style sheet, so I need to click over to the DOM, go over to the source code, and then locate that last section that we just coded out. So we're looking for main, and then that was the last one that we did with our scholarship work study grant section. So I'm going to place my cursor at the end of that closing main tag and hit the enter return key and back that off so I'm on the same level. And then main class main. That's all this one's going to get. No secondary class to this one. Right caret, and then hit the enter return key a couple times, and then again I'm backing that down so it's on the same level. Move my cursor up and then tab in. So in this section, it's going to be styled just like the one that we did for the home page. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically create the structure for one of the columns, and then I'll copy and paste that twice and then go back in and enter the content, so that way each one pretty much ends up exactly the same. So we start off with our div class row again. Pretty familiar with that by now. Right caret and hit the enter return key a couple of times. Move your cursor up and then tab in. Each one of these cells gets a column, but what we want to do is we want to make sure that we wrap each one of those cells in an A tags, because that's how it'll create the button for each one of those sections. So we're going to start with the left caret A href, hit the enter return key, and we're going to go ahead and leave that. Let's go ahead and put in a pound symbol for now as a placeholder. We'll go back in and put in those actual links later on. Use your arrow key to push that over, your cursor over after the quotation mark, and then hit the space bar. And we want to actually go ahead and put in a target, so that way when somebody clicks on this link, it goes to a new tab or opens up in a new page. We don't want it to open up in our site. We want it to open up on a new tab. We also need to add that container button, that BTN class, to this A tag. So hit the spacebar, class, and then container BTN. So this is going to, didn't spell that right at first, so container, there you go. So this is going to give us the functionality that we're looking for in the button. So click that, and that should be it for the A tag there on that. So hit the right caret, and then with our cursor still inside of that A tag, now we need to add our call span, the one that creates the cell for this section. So left caret, and then div class call span 1. Okay, select that out, and then hit the right caret. So from here, here's why I want to go ahead and create my spaces for this section. So with my cursor now, in between div class call span 1 and the closing div tag, and the A tag is wrapped around those as well, I'm going to hit the enter return key and then hit the delete key one time so it's on the same level as that A tag, and then move my cursor up and tab in. So that way it shows clearly that my A tag is wrapping that div class that I have called call span 1. Okay, so the rest of this gets, we have a heading 2, and then we have an image that goes below it, or goes below the heading 2, and then we have a paragraph that goes below the image, and then we have 2 more paragraphs below that will give us additional information about the Stafford loan, like the maximum borrowed amount and the interest rate that goes with that. So this first one is the Stafford unsubsidized. So I'm going to type in the left caret H2 and type in Stafford unsubsidized. spell it right, loans, and we can always go back and spell check later on if we need to. And then after that H2, place your cursor right at the end of that closing H2 tag and hit the enter return key. Remember, whenever we put in an image, we want to put that in a div container with that class image CNT or image container that we created before, so that way it will automatically resize in the space that we've provided it. So left caret div class img CNT for container, and then right caret, and then from here we're going to go ahead and put in our first image. So actually, you know what? I'm not going to put in the first image. We're just going to put in the image tag. So img src. We're going to go ahead and leave just the quotation marks there, and then hit the space bar and then type in alt. Don't put in anything in those quotation marks yet, and then space / right caret. So that'll just build out the structure for now. We'll go back in and put those things in later on. So at the end of that closing div tag on that line, at the end of that image container, hit the enter return key, and here's where we're going to put in the text for this. And so I'm going to type in a paragraph tag, and then I'm just going to put in some lorem ipsum text there to fill out our text, and paste that in between the opening and closing paragraph tag. And then after that paragraph tag, I'm going to add 2 more paragraph tags, and inside of that paragraph tag we're going to add a strong tag, so it's bolded. I could use the H6 heading for this. It would save me an extra tag to type, because pretty much that's what that H6 is. It's bold, and it's the font size is 1 rem. So if you want to go ahead and use the H6 tag, you can go ahead and do that instead of doing it this way. But since I've already typed it, and I'm just going to do some copying and pasting, I'm just going to copy that and then paste it right below it, because I have 2 paragraphs in there, and in between that strong tag there I have maximum borrowed amount. And if you haven't figured it out by now, strong tag means bold. And then we have interest rate. Okay, so I need this 2 more times because I have 2 more of these. So what I'm going to do is find that closing A tag where that starts out our button, that starts out our container BTN, and I'm going to highlight that from the closing A tag to the opening A tag, and Command C or Control C, and then click out, make sure my cursor is after that A tag, hit the enter return key, and then Command V or Control V, and do that twice. So you have 2 of those. So I have all 3 of my sections. The only thing that I'll need to go back in and change are the heading 2s, because I put in Stafford unsubsidized loans. So I need to take out Stafford unsubsidized loans in that second one and type in parent plus. And in that third one, this is subsidized loans instead of unsubsidized loans. So I'm going to place my cursor and then just capitalize subsidized. So Stafford subsidized loans. Okay. So I need to add links and images to each one of these. So let's just go ahead and start with the first one. I have the URL to this to the federal grant program for this. So I'm going to just go ahead and go off screen real quick and then copy and paste that URL. You can do that directly from a browser. So if you search, so here I'll go ahead and cut that out and then paste that in. So if you go to your browser, and I'm going to open up a new tab, and you type in Stafford unsubsidized loan. Okay, you might come up with that student aid information. Just copy and paste that URL directly from the browser window and back into those in between those quotation marks right in there. So it should be the same link. Okay, and you just paste that in there. Okay, just like that. And then next we need to go ahead and put in the image for that section. So where I have image src, where that quotation mark is, delete that back till where you have no quotation marks, and then type in a quotation mark, and your code hint will come back up, and then you can hit the enter return key and then just browse for that image. So what I'm looking for is that first one. What is a Stafford loan? That's the one that I have in my mock-up. So I'm going to click open on that. And then in between the quotation marks of the alt tag there, I'm going to type in Stafford unsubsidized. And that's all. I'm going to go ahead and leave it at that. And then from there, you'll want to fill in the rest of this information. So in terms of where it has the paragraph, what you're going to put in here for the paragraph, like I said, all you need is a brief overview of what the Stafford unsubsidized loan program is. So it might just be a little bit of copying and pasting from their website. Okay. So then I need to go on to the next container, our next piece. So Parent Plus loan, where I have the link to that, I need to just delete that pound symbol and then go ahead and Google search what is a Parent Plus loan. It's basically the same. It's at the same website on the federal aid website. I already have this, so I'm going to Control C on and then Control or Command V into the quotation mark there right in between. And then for the image, I need to back off that quotation mark, those two quotation marks, and then retype in the quotation mark again, hit the enter return key in our code hint, and then select the Parent Plus loan image. And then again, where the alt tag is, in between those parentheses or the quotation marks, I'm going to type in Parent Plus loan. And that should do it for that. Then you will want to fill out that text again. And then last but not least, we have the Stafford subsidized loan. So I'm going to delete out that hashtag and then copy and paste the URL to that section. And it might even be the same URL as the one that you did on the very top, because there's only a slight difference between the two. It's a major difference in terms of how much you pay back, but in terms of what they are, they're basically from the same federal site, but they're just two different types of loans basically. Okay, so then in terms of the source, again, image source, back off the quotation mark, retype in the quotation mark. When the code hint comes up, hit the enter return key, and then select that last one I've got there. And then same thing in between the alt tag, Stafford, and this time it's subsidized loan. Okay, let's make sure I did everything right. Go ahead and hit save. My little red mark should disappear because when I copied and pasted the other code in here, it didn't have a path to the image. It was just blank quotation marks. So Dreamweaver is telling you, hey, you've got some unfinished code here or an unfinished file path that you need to fix. So now that I've saved that, let's tab over to our design. So we got a problem here. I forgot to add a very specific tag to our design down here, and that's why it's looking like it's all stretched out and it's not in columns. And the one thing that I forgot is to make sure that I've wrapped this whole section in that grid 3, the grid 3 class that we created into that div tag. So let's fix that. Let's locate where the top of our that right below row in that first call span there. Place your cursor before that A tag, before that caret, and hit the enter return key. And then use your arrow key and then type in div class grid 3. Okay? And in fact, you know what? Control Z that until it's all the way gone. Let's do this. Grab that whole section all the way down to the bottom. Don't grab the row part. Don't grab the div class row or the closing div down there on the bottom. Make sure you've got the 3. So the A, it starts off with the A tag there and it ends with an A tag. And let's use that shortcut of Command T or Control T to wrap that tag. So we're going to go div class and we're going to do grid 3. So we're going to wrap it around. We're going to wrap it in that and hit the enter return key there. So when it's going to do that is it's going to add our div class, but it's not going to do is it's not going to bring it down, and it's just going to bring it on that same level as our first opening column there, and then our last. So place your cursor at the end of div class grid 3, and hit the enter return key. Okay, and then what we might have to do is we might have to go in and tab in to some of these things to make our coding levels look right. So I'm going to hit the enter return. I'm going to place my cursor right at the end of that closing A tag, hit the enter return key. So see how those things are on the same level right there? I don't like that. I mean, it works. You don't actually have to do this if you don't want to, but it'll work. It'll look fine. But for me, because I'm very particular about the way my code looks, I want to tab in all of these things to represent that these are nested within each other. So starting with this little chunk of code where it says H2 and all the way to that paragraph tag, not grabbing the div tag just yet. Actually, we can grab this. Let's go ahead and grab all of that and then just tab in. So that way this div tag, this A tag, they're on the same level again. And grabbing that, same thing. So I'm just going to grab these and tab these in so they're on the same level. So now that when I look through it, if I look through it and start clicking through my closing tags, you can see where the start close is, start close there, and then all those are also tabbed in on the same level. Okay, I know I screwed up there and I'm sorry. I apologize for missing that in. It's pretty common to happen though, and that's the quick, easy way to fix it is just to wrap it in, to wrap that tag around what we missed. So let's tab over and check our design, and bingo, there we go. And then it has that highlight function that we put in on our first page when we did our home page, and it looks good. Let's double check to make sure our mobile view also took, and there we go, no problems there as well. All right, so that's going to finish out our education plan page. The next one is the internship experience page, and we're almost there. We're almost finished with our portfolio.